All right, we have finished module 3 and it's time for us to start doing some review. So you will have some review packets like we normally do. We'll go over those together. But today I want to just pull a variety of problems from earlier in the module and go over those. It's been a while, been since the early beginning of the month since we've been over these sort of problems. So let's go over them now, and then we will obviously we'll continue to review the material we've learned more recently as well. But today we're going to sort of hit the beginning of the module, and then over the next couple of days we'll review some other things as well. We're going to take this review a little slower than we normally do. Not today, but like throughout this week. Normally we do like we finish the unit, we do 1 day of review, then we do the assessment, then we fix our assessments the next day. We're going to do at least 2 days of review. Our learning has been a little bit different here in recent weeks because for 2 weeks we've been at home, and so I want to do a review today, but I'll also do some review learning with you when we get back in person as well before we move on to the assessment. So I'm going to give you plenty of time and plenty of opportunities to think about everything that we've done in module 3 and practice problems from this module before we move on and do the assessment together. All right, let's. I've pulled 4 sample problems today, and let's take a look. These are where I literally copied and pasted them from a review activity that normally we would have done together in class. So I didn't make these ones up. I literally copied and pasted them for you. Mrs. Briggs' class will be collecting pet supplies for the local pet shelter for the next 28 days. How many weeks is her class collecting pet supplies? There are 7 days in a week. Write an equation and solve. Okay, so what do we know? Let's write that down. We know that there are 1 week equals 7 days. We know that they are doing, they are collecting for 28 days. Number of weeks equals W. We don't know. All right, that's what we need to solve. So we need to write an equation and solve it to figure out the number of weeks. Okay, basically 2 different ways we can go about doing this. I would go with a division approach because we know the total. So that's the total. This is the size of group. And this is the number of groups. And when we know the total, we often, that means that we can pretty easily write a division problem. So we could say 28 being the total, because we always start with the total and division, divided by 7 equals W, right? So if you have 28 days that they're collecting for, there are 7 days each week. How many weeks is that? You also could write 7 weeks times W equals 28, right? These belong in the same fact family. The W will be the same either way. It's also okay to write this top one and then solve it using the bottom one, like what times 7 equals 28? 7, 14, 21, 28. The answer to that, can't get that pinky down. The answer to that is 4. So W equals 4. My sentence then would be like, the class will be collecting pet supplies for the local pet shelter for 4 weeks. You also should go back at this point and double check. So 28 divided by 7 equals 4. Yes, that's correct. 7 times 4 is 28. Yes, that's correct. And label your answer, 4 weeks. So you will be asked to, or something we've done and something you will be asked to do here in the end of module assessment is write and solve equations based on some information that you get in a word problem. Let's take a look at the next one. Oh, before I move on, sorry. I think it's really helpful to either underline this information in the problem, like this stuff up here, either underline it or highlight it somehow, or like I do, write it out so you know what you know and you know what you're looking for. Take the time to do that. Like really get yourself organized before you start working. It's really tricky to solve a math problem if you're not sure what you're trying to solve. So take some time and get oriented to the problem, understand what you're trying to figure out before you start just messing around with numbers, right? That's step 1. is figure out what it is that you're being asked to do. On this one, it says Nico has 48 flowers. Each vase will hold 6 flowers. How many vases will Nico hold to hold all of his flowers? I read that incorrectly, but same basic point. Represent the problem using a multiplication and division sentence and a letter for the unknown, and then solve. There's a lot in that last part. Use a multiplication sentence. Use a division sentence. Use a letter to represent the unknown. Solve. There are 4 different things you're being asked to do there. And you need to remember, we put an emphasis on answering all parts of the problem. So you need to make sure that you do 4 things when you do this. Well, let's do a multiplication sentence first, since that's listed. I'm going to go or identify what I know. So total equals 48 flowers. The size of the group equals 6, and you're probably saying why? Because there can only be 6 flowers in each vase. So one bundle of flowers, one group of flowers is in each vase. The number of groups, which is going to be the number of vases, we don't know. We're going to represent that with a V, right? So I know I already have my variable, letter to represent the unknown. I have my V. I just need to put it into my multiplication division sentences first. So my multiplication sentence, I can say V times 48. Oh, nope, I can't say that. V times 6 equals 48. Okay. My division sentence, I can say, I start with my total, 48 divided by 6 equals V. Okay. So I have both of my color-coded number sentences here. Now I need to solve for V, right? And I put my letter for the unknown in there as well. So I'm checking off as I go here. Multiplication, check. Division, check. Letter for the unknown, check. Now I need to solve. A bunch of different ways you could do this. I am going to say that I'm going to do a I'm just going to go ahead and count by 6s. That's my strategy for today. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48. I got up to 48 by counting 8 6s. So my answer equals 8. So V equals 8. He needs 8 vases. So the actual math on that problem wasn't complicated. That's something we've done over and over and over. We've solved 6s, 7s, 8s. We've done all that throughout this module. The real challenge for you here is making sure you understand all the parts of the problem and everything that you're being asked to do, and then making sure that you complete all those. So not only are we looking at your ability to problem solve math, but we also are looking for an ability to show organized thinking and to get yourself prepared and to make sure that you're double checking your work along the way to make sure that you do every part of the problem. So again, writing down what you know and what you don't know, that's one good way to do that. Checking off parts of the problem in the word problem as you go, that's another good part. Another good way to keep yourself organized. Use all these strategies to make sure you're answering things. All too often I see 3rd graders, and older kids do it as well, but 3rd graders especially will answer the first part and then move on. Like there's some rush or some prize for finishing quickly. I'm more concerned about your accuracy and your ability to show organized thinking than I am about your speed. So take your time, understand what you're being asked to do, and then work through that problem in an organized way. All right, sample problem number 3. Mia and 5 friends equally share the price of dinner. They order pizza, wings, and drinks for $42. They use the equation 6 times n equals 42 to figure out how much each person pays. How much does Mia pay? So the question here is simply, how much does she pay? There's only one part to this problem. The last one had 4, this one has 1. Now, obviously, you have to do the work, but uh, we just need to know how much she pays at the end. The trick to this problem, and I've warned you about this in the last 2 modules as well, is that right there. Mia and 5 friends. So you need to think to yourself when you see a problem like this, how many total people are there? Total equals 6 people. A lot of kids see this number 5, and they think automatically that 5 has to be part of the solution in some way. It's not, because it's 5 friends plus Mia. It's 6 people altogether, right? 6 people, total people, that should say. Okay. So now that we know that, we have 6 times n equals 42. Another way to think of that is 42 divided by 6 equals n. You could solve it either way, whatever works better for you. You could just count by strategy. Hopefully you just know this fact at this point. N equals $7, right? So there's 6 people, they each spend $7, and the total is 42. That unit right there, the money, that's important. So if you answered this question, there are 7 people, that would be incorrect, even though you answered the number properly. You need to pay attention to what that number means. And that, in this case, it's asking you how much they pay, and they pay $7. So Mia and each of her friends spend $7. So everybody spends $7 for a total of 42. Again, straightforward if you take the time to go through and understand what's being asked of you. That's a real theme here in all of 3rd grade, but especially in this module. All right, there are 3 rows of 6 chairs set up for a concert. The custodian decides to double the number of rows of chairs. Explain and label to show how the array represents both 6 times 6 and 2 times 3 times 6. Okay, so we're going to draw an array here, and I'm going to use 2 different colors. So originally, this is what he puts out. 3 rows with 6 chairs. This is what is set up. And if you're doing a problem like this, I want you to draw this out, right? That's required for this sort of problem. He's going to add to that. He's going to double it. So he has 3 times 6. Doubling it means multiplying by 2. He's going to double what he has. 1, 2, 3. We're going to make the same array and just add on the bottom. Okay. Now, what you're being asked to do in the problem, explain and label to show how the array represents both of those things. So labeling it is as simple as saying the whole thing shows me 6 times 6. I have 6 rows with 6 chairs in each. The other way to do it is to show 2 groups of 3 times 6, 3 times 6. And this is, you could say, 2 groups. Like 2 groups of 3 by 6, 2 sets of 3 by 6. And then you would go on and you would be able to write a sentence about this. You'd say, you could think of this both ways. You could think of it as 6 rows of 6, or you could think of it as 2 rows of 2 groups, each 3 by 6. That's what you do in your written explanation. I'm most concerned about your ability to sort of differentiate this, like take a 6 by 6 array and show that it can be 2 groups of 3 by 6. That's sort of what this problem is really looking for. Again, make sure you read the whole problem so you understand what's being asked of you. Don't just draw the array and then leave it. It's asking you to label it, because the labeling shows that you understand that 6 times 6 equals 2 times 3 times 6, right? And the way you do that is one of these 6's becomes a 2 times 3 times 6, right? All right, guys. That's day one of review. You're gonna have a review packet to work on independently, or not really packet. It's like literally one piece of paper, double-sided. We will continue to do a little bit of review tomorrow, and then we will, toward the end of the week, do our end of module assessment. And let me know if you have any questions. I know that we're going back a few weeks here to review some previously learned material, but I'm confident that based on all the work you guys have shown me lately, you're going to do a great job with this. Keep working hard.